Finally, it's week 12 of my 12 boots in 12 weeks personal challenge. Which were the boots I wore in this last week? G'day, welcome to Bootlosophy. If we haven't met, my name is Tech. I acknowledge the traditional custodians of Wajak country here where I'm filming. Now, if you're not sure what this 12 boots in 12 weeks challenge is, go to my channel, find a playlist called 12 boots in 12 weeks, and you'll find this as the week 12 report on my personal challenge where I selected 12 pairs of boots and I wore them for 12 weeks, and only those boots out of my fairly extensive 140 plus collection. So this is week 12 and it's my final report, but not the final video. Next week I'm going to bring you a summary once I've sort of sat down and had some time to think about how I felt about things and maybe some life lessons. But for this week, it's Saturday morning and I've just come back from a trip in Darwin, which is starting to get a bit boring, but I had this very big job in Darwin. So what did I do this week? Well, last Saturday and Sunday I spent at home. And then Monday and Tuesday I was working in the office, so I was wearing smart casual clothing. And then on Wednesday I flew to Darwin and spent Wednesday, Thursday and Friday in Darwin City finishing off this big job I had with this Indigenous NGO where I was doing some planning with them. So what did I wear? Well, we started the week on Saturday and Sunday. And I wore an old favorite that I hadn't worn for a long time. This is Grant Stone's brass boot, which is their mock toe construction boot in Earth Waxy Commando. It's a suede, a shrunken suede from CF Stead in Leeds in England. I think it's one of the best leathers for casual boots ever. And the brass boot is made with these Commando lug soles from Grant Stone, but they're also made with Grant Stone's own light-colored wedge sole. Anyway, this one is in the Commando sole, which I really, really like in terms of Grant Stone's version. It's slightly inboard, so it doesn't look like it's really rugged from the side, and the stitching covers it. Stitching misses the lugs, which is an important part. What I like about the brass boot is it's a mock toe. That's MOC, short for moccasin toe. It's not a real moccasin construction. It just doesn't go underneath and then up. But as a mock toe, it's a design style. And it's a one-piece mock toe. So this piece here and this piece here is actually one piece of the vamp. And what they've done is they've puckered it, hand-stitched puckering, where they stitch through one part of the vamp and then out the other part and then tighten it so it creates this pucker. What I really like about it is if you look at the shape, it has a kind of mock toe shape, but it's a bit more rounded in the toe rather than say the Red Wing 875, which is straight up, the moccasin on the edge and then straight across. This has a roundedness, which makes it not so traditional mock toe style like the Thorogood mock toe and like Red Wings 875. What I also like is the way they've made that stitch a little inboard, so it's not right at the edge, which again creates a more casual look rather than a work boot look. You know, in the world of boot design, it's very hard not to remake another style of boot. If you look at Truman mock toes, they look like 875s. They look like Thorogoods. If you look at White's mock toe, the Perry, it looks like an 875. There's not a lot you can do. I take my hats off to Grant Stone when they said, we're going to do a mock toe, but we'll make it a little bit different. Design-wise, we'll change the shape of the toe and we'll bring it inboard, which will create a different look. It's not easy in the world of boots to recreate something and make it different. So this was worn on Saturday and Sunday, doing light duties at work really, and going around walking. It's a very comfortable boot. It's well worn in. It's well adjusted to my feet. I've worn it on long hikes in my early days when I first started collecting. This was one of my first boots because I bought Grant Stones Thursdays and then Grant Stones a lot in the early days. And if you go back and look at my reviews of these boots, they include one where I wore them out on long hikes down in the southwest. So in terms of patina, they're already patinaed. They came into the challenge patinaed, so there's not much change to it. I do love the way that the nap is showing off. I have re-waxed this lightly once, and that's totally worn off again. My one complaint, I think, is because it's the earth color. When the when the wax wears off and the nap shows, you're not showing a lighter undertone like you get in the tobacco waxy commanders, for example, or the cinnamon waxy commanders that you get in White's MP boots. But nevertheless, it's a very good looking boot. It is so comfortable. I think the choice of the brass hardware is just perfect for this. It has a split reverse welt. It has a leather midsole, and then you come down to the commando sole, and obviously there's a single stack of leather in the heel. Highly recommended. So that was Saturday and Sunday. On Monday, I had some client meetings, so I wore reasonably business casual, and I came back to this old favorite just to pull on for business casual, particularly in Australia, where these are worn under suits even. And it's so ubiquitous, really, that anywhere you go, particularly in the airports, you will see a high proportion of men wearing R.M. Williamses, or if not, then some sort of Chelsea boot that looks like an R.M. Williams. Can't get away from them, really. Somebody asked me, do I wear boots all through the summer? And I do, and so do other people. This is ubiquitous through 4 seasons. This is in the chestnut color. This is the Comfort Craftsman, meaning there's a pour-on insole. And R.M. Williams don't have or no longer have midsoles. So they have a pour-on insole. They have a foam filler. In this case, this particular year that this was made, they had a cork filler. And it comes down onto a proprietary rubber sole, this very flat one, which is really good for country wear because you're not dragging mud indoors. In terms of comfort, it's a Comfort Craftsman, so it's immediately comfortable. Because there's no midsole, it's very easy to break in. It's really soft underneath. There is a fiberglass shank, so it's airport friendly. Plus, it's flexible, but still gives you the support. And in terms of the last, it's quite a longish last if you look at that. And I find I had to size up by a half, but keep to my normal average width. In terms of patina, the more I've worn this, and I never really broke these in terms of the uppers leather before this challenge. So you can see now, and if I can find them, I'll throw in some before photographs. But if you can see now, there's rolls happening and creases across this yearling leather, which is very soft, very supple, fully lined, and I think one of the most perfect Australian boots. So that was Monday. On Tuesday, I reverted back to my trickers because it was a very smart casual day for me. I was just working in the office on my own. No client meetings, no staff meetings. I truly love the look, the aesthetic of this boot, this Trickers Stow in Whiskey Newbuck. I do love an English country brogue boot. I really do. And I'm beginning to collect some more in my collection. This is a very comfortable, wide fitting as an average fit. This is their average, I think it's number 5. It's the number 5 width, which is average. However, what I don't like about it is that it doesn't even pretend to be a combination last. So while that's a wide, comfortable fit, this is quite wide in the waist and it's quite wide in the heel. Not worried about the heel. In the waist, I'm finding that because of the width, I'm not getting the right sort of cantilevered arch support here. Having said that, I've now discovered from comments from when I brought these out in the review and so on. So, this is what's good about this community is people just chime in and they tell you what you've got wrong in a nice way. I mean, there are some idiots who criticize when they don't even know the facts. But some people who do know the facts chime in a very nice way and they tell you why I'm experiencing what I'm experiencing, which is not particularly comfort. They tell me this is the Tricker's lightweight version of the Stow. So it's missing a couple of things on the inside, and which is why I'm finding it a lot harder to find comfortable. Having said that, wearing it regularly, I think not frequently, regularly across these 12 weeks, these have become passably comfortable. So I shall persevere. I'll keep wearing them, but I'm also on the lookout for a Stow boot. I'm not sure I want to pay the 500 odd pounds for a Stow boot, which by the time it gets to Australia, will be about 1,200 Aussie dollars. Frankly, I have other 1,200 Aussie dollar pairs of boots that I'd rather get first. But so I'm going to have a look at eBay and see if I can find an original Stow in the classic acorn or a darker color. I think their sea shade, for example, is bull leather, which might be really thick and durable, and with the proper sole construction. So if I can get a pair at a reasonable price, I will get it, and then I'll bring you a rebuttal to my impression. Right, so Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, I flew up to Darwin wearing these. This is the Wootten Smith work boot. It's a Chelsea boot made in Ballarat by Wootten Cordwainers. And you can see my interview with Jess Wootten about his philosophy of making handmade boots. This is totally handmade. Yes, they use stitches, but otherwise the clicking, the passing through of the stitching, all of that is totally handmade. And in this particular model, everything I chose was made and tanned in Australia, including the rubber, the pull tabs, everything. So if you haven't seen this before, it's a Chelsea boot. It's in a rough out leather tanned in Geelong, in Victoria, very near to Ballarat. It is a rapid Blake stitch or a Mackay stitch construction, which means that the uppers of the boot is lasted and then Blake stitched on the inside to a midsole. And this thing that you see that looks like a welt is in fact a midsole. It's Blake stitched on the inside. The edge pops out like a welt. The rubber outsole is glued on, and then it's edge stitched through, so it looks like it's a welt. Very comfortable boot. This was customized for my feet. So this is the left foot. On the right foot, I had quite a big knuckle here, so that was padded out a little bit. Very, very comfortable. It has stretched because it's because it's the rough out type leather. It's stretched a little bit, but it hasn't lost its fit. The design of the throat leaves this open at the ankle, so it's quite easy to move your feet and not feel like you're strangled. It takes a while to get used to it because I'm so used to Chelsea boots that are quite stiff around here to keep them on. But the key is the fit around the instep and the fit around the heel. And if you got that right, which this is right, then it's never going to slip off. And in fact, I have some trouble taking it off sometimes. Weird story. I've worn this through airport security loads of times, but going through Darwin Airport on the way home, I had to take them off. I'm guessing because of nails that were, the security devices are sometimes set a bit sensitively. And I guess because of the nails in the heel, I had to pull these off. So there you are. 4 pairs of boots in my last 12 weeks. How I'm finding them is obviously with 12 weeks and 12 boots. There's a lot of boots to wear in 12 weeks. You're not getting anything like the patina that develops in a 6-month, 1 boot stitch down patina Thunderdome. If you don't know what that is, I'll leave a link to the website down below. So this is slow growth, I think, if you see it that way. Many people will not have 1 pair of boots that they wear every day. Some will. I think many people who are into boots and into boot hobbies might stop at 8 pairs of boots. They might stop at maybe 12 to 15 pairs of boots. And I think this little experiment shows you that you're going to have gentle wear. I guess if you have a pair of boots that you wear more frequently in that collection, you might end up with something that's a little bit more worn in. You might end up with some more color variation, scratches, scuffs. I don't count that as patina. I find that I take care of my boots. As soon as they scuff, I condition them. I put boot cream on them. So unless you're a concrete worker wearing one pair of boots every day, you're going to find this type of gentle patina happening with your collection. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's perfectly fine, because we're collecting boots to wear, to enjoy, and to see how they change. But we're not wearing them to thrash them, I hope, not boot collectors. It's a bit like a stamp collector buying a rare stamp and then sticking on an envelope to send it. I don't think that's going to work. So there you go, the end of 12 boots in 12 weeks. One more video to come, which I will just have some time to think through it, and then I'll bring you a full summary of how the 12 boots went. Was there anything wrong with my selection? Spoiler alert, there was, and how basically I felt the experience. I hope you like the series. If you do, and I hope you like this video, please click on like. And then if you have a moment, I hope you subscribe and carry on watching to see more of my reviews. So I'll bring you that summary report next week, which, by the way, due to the workflows that I use in YouTube, by now is about 6 weeks later than I recorded it, because of gaps in between and a couple of unboxings in between and so on. They got pushed out. So it's now early spring, and if you're watching this when it comes out, you think it's mid-spring, but it's actually about 6 weeks earlier. So with that little message, take care out there, come back next week, and I'll see you soon.